It's been over a decade since it happened. I was younger then. Early 20s, independent, and maybe a little too trusting in my own invincibility. My world back then was a mess. I was living in a rough neighborhood in Asheville, North Carolina. To cope with the noise, the tension, the ever-present sense of danger, I started hiking. The Appalachian Trail runs not too far from the city, and I found solace in its silence. I'd walk for hours, sometimes with a book in my backpack, sometimes with nothing but my thoughts. There was one section of the trail I loved most, a quiet stretch just past the Haw Creek Valley overlook. Not many hikers ventured that way, and even fewer locals knew about it. For nearly 2 years, I made it my routine. I knew the trees, the rocks, the smell of moss and pine. There was a large rock outcrop that overlooked a gentle stream, and I'd often sit there for hours, legs dangling over the edge, writing in my journal or just listening to the birds. I never felt unsafe out there. That day, like just I, laced up my boots, filled my water bottle, and headed out. The trail was quiet. I remember how still the air was. As I got closer to the outcrop, I noticed something odd. A thick vine that had always hung near the trail, one I sometimes swung from for fun, was gone. It struck me as wrong, out of place. That vine had been there for as long as I could remember, and it was sturdy. No storm could have taken it down that cleanly. I chalked it up to kids messing around, pushed the unease down, and kept walking. About a quarter-mile in, I reached the rock outcrop. As always, I rounded the side to sit in my usual spot. I pulled out a joint back then. It helped calm my nerves. I held my lighter in one hand, just about to flick it, when I heard it, a branch snapping. Then more rustling, heavy footsteps. Not animal footsteps. Human. I froze. Instinctively, I tucked the lighter and joint back into my pocket and pressed myself against the rock. The footsteps were getting closer, fast and uneven. Then I heard voices. 2 men, arguing. One of them was yelling something about losing the package, and the other snapped back about replacing it. Their voices were angry, their words clipped. I inched forward, peering around the edge of the rock as silently as I could. That's when I saw them. They didn't look like hikers. Their clothes were dirty, torn, like they'd been out in the woods for days. One of them had a knife strapped to his belt. The other had a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. I stayed hidden, barely breathing. They came closer, rounding the outcrop on the other side, still yelling at each other. One accused the other of screwing up the drop. The other shouted something about next time we grab one that can't run. And that's when the truth hit me. Cold and sharp, they were talking about people. About abducting them. My stomach dropped. I knew I couldn't stay where I was. If they turned the corner, they'd see me. But if I ran, they might hear. As they argued, I began inching back the way I came, one slow step at a time, keeping trees and boulders between us. But they started moving too, heading down the same path. I had no choice. When I saw a break in the trees ahead, a slight uphill slope toward the ridge, I made my move. I ran. Branches slapped my face. Roots snagged at my boots. I ran harder than I ever had. Behind me, I heard them crashing through the underbrush, shouting, "Get her!" One of them bellowed. That word. Her. It made it so much more real. They saw me. They were chasing me. Panic gave me wings. I scrambled up the ridge, tears streaming down my face. When I finally reached the edge of the trail and saw the familiar gravel path that led back to my car, I didn't look back. I just kept running. By some miracle, they didn't catch me. I don't know if I outran them or if they gave up, but I made it home that day. I locked every door and window, sat on the floor of my bedroom, and cried for hours. I didn't hike for weeks after that. One day, I got a call when police were combing the area. They found 2 dead bodies inside the car. But then the whispers started about a killer. Over the next few weeks, I heard stories, murmurs. Someone was targeting criminals. Not just dealers, but abusers, predators, people who had hurt others. The police said nothing publicly, but folks around town talked like they knew. And then I heard it. 2 men found deep in the woods, cut up. Badly. So badly they had to be identified by fingerprints. They were the ones. I knew it in my gut. The 2 who chased me. The traffickers. They were dead. I don't know who that killer was. I remember that night more clearly than I remember my own birthday. I had gotten used to the walk back, even in the dark. With no car and no money for cabs, I'd walk the familiar dirt tracks from town through the edge of the forest to my cabin. It wasn't officially part of the trail, but a side path hikers used in warmer seasons. I had a headlamp, a decent coat, and my daughter strapped to my chest in her carrier. She was 5 months old, wrapped tight in fleece and asleep like an angel. Her breathing was the only thing that kept me calm in the silence. It was close to 2:30 a.m. in the morning when I got off work. I stopped briefly at the gas station to grab a hot sandwich. They weren't good, but they were warm. The clerk nodded at me like usual, didn't say much. I was tired, my legs aching, and I still had a mile to go on foot. I remember feeling it, this heaviness, not from fatigue, but like the night was pressing in, watching me. Once I got off the main road and stepped onto the forested path. About halfway in, I saw them. 2 figures, male. On the trail ahead, maybe 30 yards. They weren't walking like hikers. They weren't walking like anyone who belonged out there. Drunk. That's what I thought at first. One of them was swaying, his head bobbing under a hood. The other one straightened up when he saw me. I slowed. Something inside me screamed, "Don't let them know you're scared." They started moving toward me. I tightened the strap on my daughter's carrier, her tiny body warm against mine. I didn't stop, but I didn't walk faster. Not yet. "Cute baby," one of them slurred. My fingers were inside my coat, gripping the stun gun I always kept hidden in the lining. I didn't say a word, just kept walking. "Hey," the other one barked. "Let me see the baby. Come on." I still said nothing. I looked straight ahead, but I saw them picking up pace, their boots crunching behind me faster than mine. Then it happened. One of them lunged. I felt the rush of movement from behind, an arm reaching over my shoulder. My daughter let out a sharp cry, and in that second, instinct took over. I whipped around and drove the stun gun into the ribs of the closest man. The crackle of electricity lit up the dark, and he screamed loud and guttural, collapsing to the frozen ground. I didn't wait to see what the second one would do. I just ran. I didn't care that the trail was covered in roots and ice patches. I didn't care that I could trip and fall with my daughter on my chest. I just ran. I veered off the trail, slipping between tree trunks and down a ravine I hadn't explored before. I ducked under a log, crouching low, shaking, holding my baby so tightly I feared I'd crush her. She was crying now. Minutes passed. Maybe more. The woods were quiet again, except for her cries and my heartbeat in my ears. I didn't hear them anymore. Had I lost them? Were they circling around? I knew a back route from there, an old hunter's trail that looped north of my cabin. I kept my hand on my stun gun the whole way, praying it had enough charge left if I needed it again. I made it home by 4 a.m., bolting the door behind me, pulling every curtain tight. I clutched my daughter in the corner of the room. The police came after I called them. They took my report seriously, but I could see it in their eyes. They weren't hopeful. I didn't get a good look at their faces. The men were never found. I don't know if they gave up, if they got caught doing something else. I've never walked that path again. Not alone. Not at night. Not ever. I moved eventually. Got a car. Got a new job. I'm telling this story because I need people to know that danger doesn't care if you're tired or working hard or just trying to get home to your baby. It waits. It watches. And it strikes when it thinks you're weakest. It was the fall of 2015. That day, my sister and I decided to take a day hike on a lesser-known portion of the Appalachian Trail near Hot Springs, North Carolina. The air had that crispness that only October in the mountains can bring. We were both seasoned hikers, familiar with backwoods paths and the moods of the wilderness. We'd spent most of our childhood exploring forests like this with our dad. We had our packs, and my phone was fully charged with a portable power bank. And a loyal German shepherd. The trail was supposed to be easy, just a quick hike to a scenic overlook that promised a view of the French Broad River winding through the mountains. According to the ranger station, it was about 30 minutes in and back, no problem, especially with daylight on our side. We parked around 3:30 p.m., marveling at how peaceful it was. There were no other cars. We found the trailhead with ease. The first stretch was beautiful. We chatted casually, pausing now and then to take pictures or let Jasper sniff around. It was a gentle incline, winding around a massive rock face, with glimpses of the sun peeking through the canopy. In about 25 minutes, we reached the overlook. It was breathtaking. You could see the river glistening far below, wrapped in the embrace of rolling hills and thick forest. We stood in silence for a few moments, taking it in. Then, we decided to head back. That was when things started to go wrong. We turned around, expecting to walk right back the way we came. But the trail behind us, the one we had just used, was gone. In its place were two new trails, one sloping upward to the left and one sharply descending to the right. Both looked unfamiliar. No footprints, no markers, just dirt paths by the woods. "That's not right," I muttered. My sister frowned. Did we somehow miss a turn? No, this isn't possible. We didn't pass any forks. Jasper, who had been calm the whole time, started pacing. We stood there for a few minutes, hearts starting to pound. The sky was still light, but dusk would creep in fast in the mountains. I checked my watch. 4:10 p.m. We decided to try the path leading up, hoping it might reconnect with the trail we came on. We walked for maybe 10 minutes, but the incline grew steeper and rockier, and soon it was clear this wasn't the right way. We circled back to the split and took the path downward. The descent was disorienting. The landscape grew more unfamiliar, the trees somehow thicker. Jasper started barking at seemingly nothing, his fur standing on end. My sister grabbed my arm. "We need to stop," she said. "This isn't right." It was now around 5:15. We should have been back at the car already. "I think we need to go up to higher ground, get some reception," I said. We climbed until we found a ridge, and thank God I had a single bar of reception. I called 911, trying not to sound panicked. "We're lost on a trail," I told the dispatcher. "We can't find our way back." She was calm and professional. "Stay where you are. Rangers will be dispatched immediately. Keep your phone on. If reception drops, text your coordinates if possible." We waited. The sun was slipping behind the mountains. The cold was setting in. I swear I started to hear whispers around us, like something felt deeply wrong. Finally, a ranger called out. We waved, yelled. They found us. We followed them to their vehicle, and when I asked how far we had gotten from the trailhead, he paused. "You're a good 2-hour drive from where you parked," he said. "That can't be," my sister said. It was a short trail. It took us 30 minutes to get to the overlook. He shook his head. "Not from where you were. There aren't even maintained paths back there." We rode back in silence, trying to piece together what had happened. Even now, we can't explain it. We hadn't hiked more than an hour total, yet somehow ended up miles from where we began. Our dog, a natural guide, had been confused and scared. Paths we walked had vanished. Time didn't add up. To this day, my sister and I avoid that section of the trail. We don't talk about it much, but both of us believe we encountered something not natural. A time warp. A rift. Something that bent space around us. I don't know, but I do know that for a few hours that day, we were somewhere we weren't meant to be. And it still gives me chills. It happened a few years back. That was the day when my best friend, Luca, and I were hiking a stretch of the Appalachian Trail that cuts through the rugged borderlands between Tennessee and North Carolina. We'd done this sort of thing a dozen times: weekend hikes, long treks, even a few solo overnighters. The air was crisp that morning, chilled just enough to make you breathe deep and walk fast. It was the kind of day you lace your boots a little tighter, eager to chew up miles of trail. We had no flashlight, no map, and no GPS. Didn't need them. Luca grew up in these hills, and I trusted him more than I trusted any piece of gear. We packed light. We weren't out there for a photo shoot or a leisurely nature stroll. This was about the hike, the quiet, and the isolation. We craved it. About 3 hours in, we saw them. 4, maybe 5 people stood dead center in that clearing. Dressed normal, just regular-looking folks. But the second we stepped into view, every one of them turned and locked eyes with us. No smiles, no hellos, just silence and stares. Luca raised his hand in greeting. "Hey there." Nothing, not a word, just eyes. I scanned them, trying to read anything: fear, confusion, aggression, but there was nothing there. They just stood there like mannequins. I looked at Luca and saw it mirrored in his face. Something was off. We both knew it. "Let's backtrack," I muttered. We turned, cool and casual, like we weren't just walking away from something deeply wrong. But once we dipped back into the tree line, I tossed a glance over my shoulder. They were following us. 15 meters behind, maybe less. Same dead expressions. Same silence. Step for step. We just picked up the pace. We hiked faster, tried to lose them by cutting off the trail. These hills can twist you around if you're not careful. Luca swore he knew where we were, but even he was starting to doubt himself. The underbrush was thick, branches clawing at our legs, and I swear, still they followed. Always the same distance. Always just close enough to let us know we weren't alone. I finally stopped, turned, pulled my knife. "Hey, you want something? You got a problem? Say something." They stopped too, just that blank stare. I'd had enough. Come any closer, and I swear I'll bury this blade in the first one who steps forward. But no retreat, either. Just that dead silence, like they were waiting for something. For a signal. We ran. Didn't have any plan. Just ran. The trail spit us out at a gravel pull off where we'd left Luca's Subaru. We piled in, slammed the doors, locked them. And then, in the rearview mirror, a car. It rolled out of the tree line like it had been waiting for us. Old sedan. No plates. Just black windows. "Drive fast," I barked. Luca peeled out of the lot. We hit the main road, weaving through every turn like we were being hunted because we were. That car stuck to us. Never too close, never too far. Just watching. Tracking. We drove in circles, up dead-end roads, past farms and empty fields. Didn't matter. The car stayed on us. It wasn't until we reached the edge of Luca's hometown real town limits, with stores and streetlights and cameras, that the black sedan finally slowed, made a casual U-turn, and disappeared back down the road toward the trail. Luca hasn't hiked since. Says he won't. I've been out a few times, but never alone, never unarmed. Whatever those people were, whatever they wanted, they didn't get it.